It may look like a typical government building from the outside, but once you follow the signs and get past the security, you realize pretty quickly that this is no ordinary office.
This is our evidence storage room, and it's also our server room. We have a completely isolated server in this facility so that it can't be touched from any outside source.
Detective Sergeant David Thompson oversees the day-to-day operations of the Washington County Digital Forensics Laboratory. Launched in 2018 as a joint effort between the Washington County District Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Office, and Community Corrections, this lab represents a 21st century approach to law enforcement.
Almost every crime that's committed it has the potential for a digital evidence nexus.
That's because nearly everyone has a cell phone these days, and those phones, not to mention computers and other digital devices, often contain critical evidence.
We've really got our entire lives in these phones. They're an incredible amount of information and an incredible source of information when we are trying to solve a crime.
Senior Deputy District Attorney John Gerhard shares administrative duties over the lab with Sergeant Thompson. He says the DA's office first came up with the idea for this centralized facility, which any law enforcement agency in the county can utilize, after it became clear that most police departments just didn't have the resources to match the growing demand for digital evidence processing.
It was pretty challenging because sometimes it would take 6 months to a year before the actual forensics investigation actually resulted in anything that could be used for investigation or prosecution.
That slow turnaround time often forced prosecutors like Gerhard to proceed without all the available evidence. But thanks to the lab, that wait time is down to just days or weeks.
If you can imagine, we found the firearm just hidden in this shrubbery.
Gerhard says it didn't take long for the county to see a return on its investment. The lab has found vital evidence for dozens of cases so far, including a shooting which happened on this normally quiet street in Cornelius. The botched armed robbery ended with multiple shots fired. Witnesses saw it all happen, but couldn't tell who was actually pulling the trigger.
You know, you have to imagine that under that very stressful situation, they see both of these males running in that direction for a fleeting moment, and then they're having bullets rain down upon them, and they're just trying to survive at that point in time.
The men ran off and the shooter ended up tossing the gun into the bushes. Both men were eventually arrested, but investigators couldn't determine who fired all those rounds until Sergeant Thompson and his team stepped in.
This is what's called a Faraday box, and this is to completely isolate a digital device.
They searched the suspect's phones and found these photographs linking the shooter to the weapon.
And that was some powerful evidence that helped us tie together who the actual shooter was, despite our victims not being able to say, yes, that was the shooter, or no, it was the other guy.
That new evidence allowed Gerhard to elevate the charges against the shooter, landing him a nearly 20-year prison sentence. He likely would have gotten just a few years if they weren't able to link him to the handgun. Gerhard says that one example shows residents of the county that their taxpayer dollars are being used effectively and efficiently, and that law enforcement now have the tools needed to protect public safety in the digital age.